We're joined by Congressman Paul Ryan this morning. Congressman Ryan, good morning to you.
Hey, Scott, good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Fine. Thanks a lot for joining me. Appreciate it.
Sure.
First of all, of course, I know we're going to talk about budget issues here in a moment since you're on the budget committee, but yeah, because earmarks or percentage of spending are minuscule.
Very small.
And I've said, this isn't a Republican problem. This isn't a Democratic problem. This is a math problem that we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And so I try not to tell people, look, line item view is going to fix our problems. No, but what it's going to do is it's going to help us attack the culture of spending, which is just to pile on and add more. The big problem is that's giving us this debt crisis, which is around the corner for us, are our entitlement programs. The fact that our current government, the current president and Congress, raised domestic government agency spending by 84% in this session alone is a staggering sum. Huge, massive spending increases in government agencies. We've got to dial that stuff back, pull that back, and reform these entitlements. And that, at the end of the day, is what we've got to do. What frustrates me most is knowing all of this, Congress this year just decided not to do a budget. For the first time since the new budget system was put in place in 1974, the House of Representatives will not even consider a budget. So the spending is going to go out the door. They're going to keep spending the money on government agencies with even more increases, but they're not going to budget and prioritize and put in place a plan to get this debt and deficit under control, and that's what's so frustrating to me.
Well, it's really frustrating for me as well because, during the Bush years, it went from the deficit went from $5 trillion to $10 trillion. It doubled. There was the unfunded Medicare Part D. That went through Congress as well. So it's both sides. Both
Absolutely.
sides have a spending problem, right?
Yeah, the way I like to say it is when Republicans, and look, I was part of this. I was a backbencher fighting a lot of this stuff, but nevertheless, we lost a lot of those fights. I lost that line item veto fight in 2006. What happened was we were the amateurs. Now we got the professional big spenders in government. So we don't have time to play this out anymore. We really are running into our own European-like problem. Because if you look at our debt levels in America, they're approaching European-sized levels, and that is very scary. If this debt gets out of control, which it's very quickly doing, if the Obama budget sticks and continues on as it is, the debt doubles in 5 years and triples in 10 years, we will have our own bona fide debt crisis. And what I'm trying to say is let's preempt it. Let's get our fiscal house in order, reform our entitlement programs, cut back on government agencies' budgets, let them do more with less, get rid of all the waste, and fix this before we have a European austerity plan. If we fix our debt now, that helps us get to prosperity. That helps us keep lower interest rates, prevent inflation, keep taxes low. If we keep going on the path we're on, then the inevitable is higher interest rates, an inflation problem, and much higher taxes. And that's going to slow down our economy and hurt us from creating jobs.
What about on the military side of things as well? Do we not have to cut back on military spending as well?
Yeah, I think within it you have to prioritize. Now, obviously, we've got troops over in Afghanistan. They need every piece of equipment they need. But there are lots of areas. I just had a hearing on this. There are lots of areas for waste to get out of it. Like the procurement budget is completely out of control. The Pentagon's budget itself is not working right. So there are billions of dollars of waste you can get out of the Pentagon. Lots of procurement waste. We're buying some weapon systems I would argue you don't need anymore. Their current Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, he's doing a pretty good job of identifying obsolete weapon systems that are costing tens of billions of dollars that aren't needed. So, yes, there is waste in the Pentagon, but I would also argue that there are some needs as well. So you want to make sure, especially with war funding, because our troops' lives are on the line here, you need to go at that with a scalpel, not a meat axe.
What about, and I hear you talking, I hear all the politicians talking, you want to do something, you have the roadmap for America, but are you the lone wolf out there? Is there really some consensus, and will there be some action, or is this all just political hot air?
Yeah, well, the consensus is kick the can down the road and dodge the necessary reforms. I hate to say it, but I am kind of a lone wolf. I'm the only person who's put a plan out that has been certified by the Congressional Budget Office is actually balancing the budget and paying off the debt. Now, the reason,
and nobody's jumped on board.
I've got a number of conservatives who are co-sponsors of it, but most folks don't want to embrace this kind of change because they're so fearful of the kind of distortions and demagoguery that their political opponents could level against them, and that has given us the political paralysis we've had in our system, which means we just blindly sleepwalk off this cliff of debt, and that is why I wanted to stop this vicious cycle of everybody pointing fingers at each other, of playing the blame game, of doing nothing to fix this fiscal problem, put a plan out there. And my hope was, when I put this plan out there, was not necessarily to say that I got all the answers. My hope was that other people would come up with their plans, and so we get on to debating how best to solve our debt crisis. Unfortunately, it's the same old finger-pointing demagoguery. But I'm glad I have a plan out there because I got to sleep at night, and I want to go to bed knowing that I am doing exactly what I think my employers, the people of the 1st District, want me to do, and what I think is right.
Congressman Paul Ryan, thanks a lot. We're out of time. We'll talk again soon, okay?
All right, Scott. Good being with you. Take care.
All right, very good. Congressman Paul